So 10 years of reading tires, you can look at a bike and you can actually, when somebody comes to you and says, well, I'm in this corner, I'm getting on the gas. So what we're looking at on this Ducati, you can see almost a triangle here and then a debris field right here. There's some debris on the back edge of the tread. So what this is a classic example of is, again, rebound completely out of adjustment, but it's a somewhat different wear pattern. Normally you'd expect the leading edge to have that ridge to it and the back edge to be chamfered at 45 degrees. Now we have the opposite problem. We have a clean area on the front where it's lower and a raised rear area with a bunch of debris. So the tires, this tire is skipping. This is a very, very good example, again, of two things. One is the shock's out of adjustment for rebound, and secondly, actually on compression damping, it's too soft. So we have a compression problem, but we also know it's rebound because of debris on the outer edge and a clean wear area here. And you can see it's very clearly triangulated. And then here's another one on the leading edge.
Now, when you say you know it's a rebound issue, you don't know whether the rebound is too stiff or too soft from looking at the tire.
And the only way to do that is bounce on the bike.
Bounce on the bike.
Normally with something like this where it's on the back edge, it's too much rebound damping. Too little rebound damping usually scallops the front edge. So you can look at the tire and go, I think it's this, but until you truly push on the bike, you won't know. Yeah, this is another rebound problem, but this is chronic. Let's see why. It's too slow. So the shock's staying down at the bottom of the stroke and not relieving it at all. Well, the shock will come down and it'll work probably in the last third of the stroke. So as the road surface changes and the physical load changes with the bike, under throttle, the bike is actually working at the bottom of the stroke and never gets out of that. So what it does is squash the tire and relieve it, but extremely quickly. So much so that the rider wouldn't even feel it. So we get these massive balls of debris, again, just as with the Ducati, on the back edge, because it's too slow. And the rest of the tire is fine. There is some scalloping on this edge, same as it changed on the Ducati, where the bike's more upright and it's had a chance for the suspension to actually relieve itself and come back somewhat to mid-stroke. So we got a 2-for-1, but this is atrocious. And it shows how slow the shock is actually physically working on this tire. So the tire wear on this bike is probably accelerated by about 40%. And it'll take that much of the tire away that quickly. And you can actually tell on this wear pattern, it's actually severely ridged on the cross pattern rather than the side. So this is chronic. This is a really bad condition. Yeah. You see on the edges, right there.
Rebound where
right
where it's
on that
scalloped,
corner.
it's got a lip on the leading edge.
It's just got a debris field on the leading edges. So rebound's wrong on the front. And you can see here, remember the clean patch?
Oh, right there, that little clean patch.
So rebound is wrong on the forks here, because you can see a clean patch following the edge of the tread pattern, and then there's also debris here and here on the tire itself. So rebound's wrong on this one as well. All right, super announcer.
Okay, that's right. And I'm glad
You've been seeing all morning all of the tire conditions, so tell me what's wrong with that back tire. The pressure is on. So the first thing that's most obvious
is there's a rebound issue of some sort, because the leading edge is shaved off, chamfered, compared to the trailing edge.
Right. What about the evenness of tire debris and wear? It's pretty scattered.
Yeah, I was going to say it doesn't have a pattern really.
It's not even, but for the most part, through sections like this, it's fairly even. So whoever's been riding this is actually pretty good with the throttle. However, we know in this instance the bike's imbalanced in rebound and probably compression too. So let's see.
It's too slow.
Too slow by miles.
Wait, yeah.
You're hired. Give up your day job. That's actually a low-speed compression problem. It's too tight, and there's a ridge in this tire from getting on the gas. Same as we had with Dana's bike. The shock is actually, there is a cold tear here, but it's not very evident. It's very fine, very slight. See what I mean by a fingernail shape?
Right.
But this tire is probably a quarter to a half a pound too inflated. But the day's going to warm up, this will disappear completely. The other part of it is this pattern in here shows that the shock is actually too tight. So as it gets on the gas, the shock quits working, so the tire has to take the brunt of the abuse that's coming from the engine. So in this instance, when it looks more like a lunar landscape, you know low speed compression and or spring is wrong, and the wear patterns as a result of that not clean and even over the tire. This is a very, very good example, again, of two things. One is the shock's out of adjustment for rebound, and secondly, actually on compression damping, it's too soft. So you're getting big tear mark here and a debris field that builds towards the back edge. What's really interesting is you get the debris field on the wrong edge here, but then it's chamfered halfway through the tire, where it's actually physically getting on the gas.
And that's a compression issue.
Compression and rebound combined. Compression because the shock here is relieved because it's off the gas at lean, but when he gets onto the gas, the shock chamfers immediately takes 45 degrees out of the tire. So you have a pronounced ridge and then it's gone. So we have a compression problem, but we also know it's rebound because of debris on the outer edge and a clean wear area here. And you can see it's very clearly triangulated. And then here's another one on the leading edge.
Can you tell the difference between a hot tear and a cold tear?
Well, a hot tear will usually leave a straight band around the perimeter or follow the circumference of the tire in this direction. So this wear pattern, this band, will obviously be hopefully a consistent difference. Like the MV, that came up and down in a wave pattern. So we know that the shock rebound-wise is actually pretty good because there's a small scalloped edge here. A hot tear will always come and have this clear band and then go into the center of the tire.
Oh, the tear
characteristic
is going like this.
Yeah, so this tire is gaining too much tire pressure and it's actually tearing into the middle of the tire and melting the tire. As it melts, it's going to follow centrifugal force and go into the middle of the tire.
And so a cold tear pattern goes the other way?
A cold tear pattern looks like a fingernail shape. It's a half moon, and it will cut immediately up to 1 millimeter into the tire within 10 minutes. And hopefully we can find a cold tear here today and look at that. But these are two completely different wear patterns. This can also be confusing because it does also represent an incorrect spring. So what we'd have to do is measure the sag on this bike, make sure the sag's in the ballpark. That eliminates the spring from the equation, and then we know
hot tear.
It's a hot tear. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's what it's all about in this instance. We have two problems. We got a rebound problem, clear as day, because we've seen that all day long here. And here we have a cold tear problem. In some places it's worse because as the wheel rotates, there's load coming on and off. So this section is really bad.
Now, when you're saying like that one right there fits my nail there,
and it digs into the tire.
Into the tire right there.
And it's always with your finger pointed this way.
Okay.
You'll never see a cold tear going this way.
All right.
Because that's a hot tear goes into the center of the tire. A cold tear is the tire's overinflated, cannot reach proper operating temperature, and then starts to rip itself apart, literally like somebody's put a pair of tweezers into it and pulled it out. Now this isn't that bad. It's probably half a pound off. A really good cold tear, and we're going over to Michelin at lunchtime to see what they've got in the rack and go through the rack, will be at least a full fingernail size and about 1 millimeter deep. It'd be horrible to look at. But parts of this debris field is from this cold tear.
Okay, so you got to get rid of the cold tear first to really begin to understand what's going on underneath.
And we've gone up, what, 15 degrees from this morning at least?
At least.
So we would see by 1 o'clock.
Probably it was worse the session before, and it's gotten a little better.
Well, he's only been out once.
Oh, okay.
So this is from his first session. Depending on what compound this is, if it's a PR4 or 5, Like I said, Michelin's are sensitive to half a pound of pressure.
Okay.
But in this instance, as we warm up through the day, this will disappear, and it'll just be left with a rebound problem in the back.
Problems. Okay.
There is a cold tear here, but it's not very evident. It's very fine, very slight. See what I mean by a fingernail shape?
Right.
But this tire is probably a quarter to a half a pound too inflated. But the day's going to warm up, this will disappear completely. This one was another hot tear, but it started as a cold tear. So the pressure was just high, so you could dig into the tire.
Right.
But then as the day went on, it took out some of that and then was too low and turned into a hot tear. So this tire went from being overinflated to underinflated during one day. Just by looking at the, remember the finger shape mark?
Yeah.
But then the 45 coming into the middle of the tire. So the pressure differential where this was set for the morning was wrong, and then the way the ambient temperature changed throughout the day, especially with the track temperature, it got to be too soft. That's why Michelin's are sensitive to half a pound. You've got to track it constantly. And if you do, they're a great tire, works great, but you've got to keep really on top of data.
So you as the day progresses, then you're saying with the Michelin's, you've got to
watch the tire.
Watch your tire, watch what's doing, and then change the pressure.
Yeah. So on this one, what we've got,
now this is a front.
This is a front. We've got a tear that follows the circumference of the tire, and you can see it really just, it radiates a little bit into the middle.
Yeah.
So what's going on here with this particular motorcycle, there's too much weight on the front wheel. This tear is caused by the front end being too soft, the back end being too high, so when it goes into the corner, it plows or stalls and then goes, once the weight goes back away from the front wheel. So a geometry tear.
The entire time it's up in the air, it's causing this tear.
Yeah, the back is forcing all the weight onto the front tire. The front tire collapses, the sidewall goes, and you've got this wear pattern where it shows the front tire is physically sliding on the ground. Now it's very slight, and the rider probably had no clue of what was going on, because the transfer between the tire stalling on corner entry and turning was probably 0.2 of a second, and they're busy looking at their apex or going beyond to see where the next corner is, so they wouldn't even have felt this. So anytime you see a tear like this that follows the circumference of the tire, it's probably 5 millimeters wide, it's a geometry tear, saying there's too much weight on the front tire.
Okay.
So again, with any tire, no matter what the brand is, look at your tire. If there's even wear across it, everything's good. If it disfigures in any way, you've got a problem. Find out what the problem is and fix it. This didn't have a tire pressure problem at all. It's all geometry. And you can see from the two sides, slow entry here, so not very much disfiguration. Huge entry on this side. Given the direction of the tire,
it's probably on the left side.
Left side. Yep.
Because this is a counterclockwise track.
So most of the load is on this side of the tire,
right.
Hence the width of the band and disfiguration.
And
so this is actually physically the oil in the tire that keeps it fluid bleeding out of the tire. So every time you heat cycle a tire, the oil comes to the surface. Because of that, what will happen is it'll change color like this. The more you go through the heat cycles, the more the oil bleeds out of the tire, the harder it gets. So in this instance, you put your fingernail in it, it's supposed to spring straight back out and not leave an imprint. It's still there. So this tire's been through plenty of heat cycles. And we can see it's got some chronic conditions on it. We got a tear problem, and we have a massive rebound problem here. Probably the most pronounced of the day.